got a lot to cover today. What's going on, guys? Jake Verdon Tech here, back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about the Asus ROG Zephyrus M15 once again. So a couple weeks ago I posted a video on the Asus ROG Zephyrus M15. It was kind of just an unboxing and first impressions video, and all the research I did before purchasing that particular gaming laptop and other options on the market, so stuff like that. It was kind of my whole buying thought process when I ended up purchasing that laptop. And you guys really enjoyed it, got a lot of views, a lot of great feedback, and hopefully you guys found it super helpful. So in this video, to answer more of your guys' questions about the Asus ROG Zephyrus M15, we're going to take a deeper dive into it and go a little bit deeper into the technical specs of it and my overall experience now that I've had it for just about a month now. Since we have a lot of specs to cover on this particular laptop, we're going to break it down into different segments. So we're going to go over this particular M15 model and some of its main specs. Then we're going to move on to the exterior and some of the I/O ports that you'll find on this laptop. Then we're going to talk about the display and all of its specifications. And lastly, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into its hardware and some of the networking stuff that this laptop provides. Alright guys, so let's jump right into it. First off, we're going to talk about this particular M15 specs, as Asus does have 3 different M15s that they make. So we're going to go over the specs that this one provides. So the main differentiating specs that this M15 has versus the others, you're looking at a 240Hz IPS display, and for the graphics card you're looking at an NVIDIA RTX 2070 Max-Q. CPU, you're looking at an Intel i7-10750H, 16 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte of SSD storage, and this display isn't only 240 Hz but is a 1920 by 1080 full HD panel. So those are the main specs that differentiate this M15 from the other 2 models that Asus makes. I'll also put the model number somewhere around the screen so you guys know exactly which one it is, and probably some links just to take you to the exact M15 that we're talking about in this video. So moving on to the exterior of this laptop and talking a little bit about the build quality. For the exterior, it's a very unique one for gaming laptops in general. It's got a really good feel to it. So majority of this laptop is magnesium alloy, with the exception of the lid being more of a composite plastic, but the magnesium alloy has a really good feel to it. It's soft to the touch, but it's very rigid, not having much keyboard flex, and giving it a very durable feel as well. So this particular M15 that I picked up is in the Prism Gray color, also having that very unique design on the lid, where it's got the dots going across the lid with kind of an iridescent color to it, which looks very nice, pretty subtle, but gives it a little bit of character, and it's not too gamer-like. So talking about the keyboard, we have a chiclet style keyboard that has a really good feel to it, very neutral feel for lots of different users. It's not quite like a mechanical keyboard where the buttons are very clicky and have lots of travel, but it's not as flat as like something like a butterfly style keyboard where there's not much travel at all in the keys. It's very neutral and it's very satisfying and very nice for gaming, typing, whatever. It's very comfortable for a wide variety of users. This is also a full RGB backlit keyboard that can all be controlled in the Asus Armory Crate software to do all your color customizing. Unfortunately, individual keys can't be customized from what I've found so far in the software, but you do have some control over what color in general that you want your keyboard to be, with also a wide variety of different settings you can set the keyboard backlighting to. So next, talking about the I/O ports you're going to find on this laptop, which is one of the things I really like about the M15, is it comes pretty loaded out with quite a few different ports. So starting off on the left side of the laptop, moving from left to right, first port you're going to have is the port for your power brick. Next to that, you're going to have your RJ45 Ethernet port, an HDMI 2.0, a USB 3.0, standard 3.5mm audio jack, and also a jack for your microphone in. So the right side of this laptop is a bit lighter on the I/O, as we have a USB Type-C and then a couple more USB 3.0 ports. So next, talking about the display, we have a 1920 by 1080p Full HD IPS panel, and this one comes in at 240 Hz refresh rate, which is very fast. I know there's stuff coming out that is a bit faster these days, which is crazy to see stuff at 360, but 240 Hz up until this year was definitely the high point as far as refresh rates on all different types of displays. And seeing this refresh rate in an IPS display is very crazy, as many in the past would be on a TN panel where you wouldn't have as good of colors and picture quality. They would just be all speed. But in this case, we have it on an IPS display, so you get definitely getting a really nice clean picture along with great colors as well too. And as mentioned earlier, this is all on a 15.6-inch display. So circling back around and talking about the hardware once again, this laptop packs quite a bit of power for its form factor. So for the CPU, we have an Intel i7-10750H. This is a mobile processor from Intel, but it packs a lot of performance. So as far as the specs go for this CPU, you're looking at 6 cores, 12 threads, a typical base clock of 2.6 gigahertz, but you can see a turbo clock frequency up to 5 gigahertz. You're probably not going to see anywhere near 5 gigahertz or be able to run that safely. So most of the time you'll probably be somewhere around 4 and 4.3 gigahertz. So this laptop comes with 16 gigs of RAM, which is expandable, sort of. Part of the RAM is actually soldered onto the motherboard itself. So I believe 8 gigs is soldered, and then you have a slot where you can actually remove part of the RAM, which is comes with an 8 gig stick. So you can expand it up to 24 gigs of RAM. So as far as storage goes, this laptop comes with a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD, and also comes with a extra empty slot that is unoccupied when you buy this laptop, so you can upgrade your storage in the future. So the unoccupied M.2 slot in the M15 is actually only a PCIe interface slot for M.2 support. So if you are going to expand the storage a little bit, just make sure the hard drive that you purchase is PCIe, but the occupied M.2 slot, which is the one that the hard drive comes inserted in, that one is actually both PCIe and SATA interface. So you could use either interface on that one or just PCIe on the other one. So talking about the graphics card, which is probably the big spec that everybody is curious about and has everybody looking at this particular M15. So this one comes with a RTX 2070 Max-Q. So I've received lots of questions about the RTX 2070 Max-Q and what exactly the Max-Q part is and where this ranks in NVIDIA's product stack. So I think the common misconception is that the RTX 2070 Max-Q is an undervolted RTX 2070 just thrown into a gaming laptop, which isn't necessarily the case. There's a little bit more to it than that. So there is lots of technology behind the Max-Q variants in NVIDIA GPUs, especially for gaming laptops like this one. So the engineering behind it is designed to be thinner, quieter, and more energy efficient for gaming laptops like this one. So from an engineering standpoint, it's really a thermal, electrical, and software optimization to be able to allow this much graphics power put inside to something like a gaming laptop. Talking about silicon process, we could also infer that the RTX 2070 Max-Q models might be some of the silicon chips that clocked a little bit lower and maybe didn't dissipate as much heat as something like some of the higher clocking silicon found in the standard RTX 2070s. So lastly, talking about some of the hardware, we're going to talk about some of the networking stuff in this laptop. So for Wi-Fi, we have a Wi-Fi 6 chip. For the Ethernet port, we have a 802.11ax port. And for Bluetooth, we are running Bluetooth 5.1. So it's pretty up to date on all of the networking specs. So lastly, guys, we're going to talk about some performance specs of this laptop and some real world tests that I have. Some more practical than others. We have a Heaven benchmark test to kind of get an idea of FPS, temperatures, stuff like that. We do have a test with Cinebench R20, which is a little bit less practical as that one really hammers the system, but we'll get an idea of render speeds and temperatures. And the more practical one I feel that a lot of people might be interested in is Adobe Premiere, seeing how it skims through a timeline, seeing how the rendering speeds are and the export speeds. So we're really gonna put this laptop through its paces. Alrighty guys, so concluding this video on the overall performance of this laptop, we're going to start off talking about Adobe Premiere, which I think this laptop really shines in. As far as skimming through a timeline, it does really well, even on some unrendered footage. And in this case that you guys saw, this was actually all off of a external SSD. So even with that, it still performed extremely well. Render speeds are pretty good, and export speeds are also really good. So it really checks the box for me when it comes to Adobe Premiere and working in Premiere with this laptop. So next we're going to talk about our gaming benchmark, which was Heaven Benchmark. And I think this laptop did very well, especially in the FPS department, as we had a pretty consistent FPS around, I'd say 160 FPS or so. So great frame rates, didn't have any substantial drops to really hurt or render our gameplay. So looking at the temps that this laptop had while running Heaven Benchmark, and I think a lot of this can apply towards other games as well, as I've noticed, but we're looking at anywhere between our low temps being 68 and the highs getting around 80C for the GPU, which I think is pretty standard for a lot of gaming laptops, especially packing this much performance. These temps definitely aren't something that I'm used to because I haven't had a gaming laptop like this or any sort of laptop with this high-end hardware packed into a very small form factor. So temps are definitely going to be much different than something that someone's used to in a desktop rig, and especially a water-cooled desktop rig that I'm used to. So temp seemed high for me at first, but it's pretty normal for a lot of these gaming laptops to run anywhere between 68 and 80C, especially while gaming. One thing that shocked me about the Heaven Benchmark test is I did have the CPU jump up to 84C, so that seemed a bit hot, especially running this graphics test, but it only stayed there for a very brief amount of time, and I think most of the time it was in the 70s during this test. So next we're going to talk about the kind of impractical test that I don't expect a lot of people will run if they purchase this laptop, which is Cinebench R20. This is a more CPU intensive render, and I really wanted to get an idea on render times and what the temps are looking like for the CPU during this test. And I gotta say, the temps got a little out of control in my opinion, and higher than I would have liked to have seen. Our highest temp that MSI Afterburner picked up on our CPU is 92C, which is way hotter than I'm used to. It's definitely too high for my taste, and I probably wouldn't recommend running it for extended periods of time at that temperature. I'm not all too familiar with Cinebench R20, but the render time that we got out of this laptop was actually 68 seconds, so just over a minute, which didn't seem too bad, especially for a mobile laptop processor. But in a nutshell, this test was kind of interesting to see how this laptop performs with it as far as temps and render times go. So putting all the tests together, I would say this laptop performs very well as expected. The hardware is definitely no slouch. The FPS that this RTX 2070 Max-Q pushes is fantastic. And the cool thing about this laptop is every frame that RTX 2070 is putting out, you can see it visually having that 240 Hz refresh rate. As far as temperatures go for this laptop, like I said, it's not temperatures I'm used to seeing or that I'm very comfortable with, but everything that I've read online, it's very normal for a gaming laptop of this tier to run anywhere between 70 and 80 C while gaming. So it sounds like it's pretty standard for most gaming laptops. But even with that being said, I still am considering doing a slight undervolt to the CPU and GPU just to get those thermals down a little bit more. So that is going to wrap up this video, guys. Thank you for watching. The Asus ROG Zephyrus M15 has been a very popular topic on my channel. A lot of people have asked me many questions about it and are very interested in this gaming laptop. As like I mentioned earlier, the previous video that I did, the impressions and unboxing video, got lots of views and many different responses from people. So this is kind of a follow-up to that, giving a little bit more in-depth review of this particular laptop. So hopefully if the last video left out some things that you guys were wondering about, hopefully this video covered them. But if any questions did go unanswered, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer those. I think another big thing that has made this laptop so popular is also the fact that it's periodically gone on sale through Best Buy lately. You can pick up this laptop for around $1,200 when it's on sale, and standard MSRP is around $1,500. So I think many people were interested, especially if it popped up in their feed, seeing that it was on sale. They've been shopping around for a new laptop. And my final thoughts on the Asus ROG Zephyrus M15. I think this is a phenomenal laptop. It exceeds my expectations and does everything I need it to do. I think this is a phenomenal laptop for anybody looking to game, maybe do some content creation, whether it's video editing, photo editing, stuff like that. I've even done some 3D modeling on mine, so quite a variety of things, and it's handled all of those things very well. Like I mentioned in my last video, this Asus ROG Zephyrus M15 definitely reigns supreme as far as price to performance goes compared to a lot of the other brands out there. So I definitely feel like this laptop might be one of the best laptops for the money for gamers, content creators, or anybody looking for a very powerful PC that comes in a relatively small form factor. So that's going to wrap up this video, guys. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video and found it helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more tech related videos like this one, be sure to subscribe. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.